Hello and welcome to ALR Gold Season 3. This is the first half season review, and alongside me is Alex Knowles. How's it going?
It's good, thank you. We're on to Russia to start with. Was we had a random calendar for this season, didn't we? So yeah, the first one off the list was Russia. So I'm just we've got the video up here as well. So we're just having a look at the highlights, obviously from that race. It was a bit of an eventful race, don't you think, Sean?
Oh, it was a cracking race as well. The one thing that stands out for me, which you will see later on in this video, is the strategy course is absolutely fantastic. John Cox this season has been incredible in the first half of the season, as we see Steve there just spinning around there. Unfortunately, his season not getting off to a good start, but Jonathan, his qualifying performance in Russia was absolutely outstanding stuff, and far from right up there as well with Echo. Brilliant side-by-side action. We got Brandon and one of the Ferraris there battling away as well. Yeah, random calendar to begin with. When starting off in Russia, how did you find the first race in Russia?
I certainly thought it was an eventful one. I think there was I don't think it was a bit of rustiness because we did have a short break over the Christmas period, didn't we, for before the beginning of the season, this season rather, the season 3 for ALR Gold. So yeah, maybe people had obviously had a bit too much to drink and had some mulled wine, and come back a bit rusty here and there. But I think the overall level of racing was good. I mean, there was a few bumps and scrapes here and there, as we can see on the highlights video with Farf just there. But I think the actual ability of racing was still there, and everybody carried on from season 2 in a good vein of form. We saw, obviously, like you said, Jonathan carrying on from season 2 with his pole position that he's grown accustomed to now, hasn't he? So he's getting used to that spot, isn't he? But then I think what surprised me here was Echo actually. Always we see a bit of a coming together with Dan and Emerson there. But yeah, what surprised me there was Echo because he gets some good points, doesn't he? But sometimes he pops up in these positions where he's P2 or P1, and he gets some good results. I remember Brazil from last season.
Yeah, indeed, that pole position from Emerson from Echo in the season in Brazil last season was absolutely fantastic. Hulkenberg-esque, wasn't it? And we got all kinds of shenanigans going on in the final corner here between Laggy Racer, of course, as ever. Unfortunately, Emerson and Murphy are coming together there, which is the second race in a row, isn't it, after Abu Dhabi? So not very good stuff there between the two so-called family members there, was it? So it was a bit a bit of tension there, which got to say I quite love a bit of tension. Farfair making his way back up through the field there as Goonu goes slightly wide there. At this stage of the race there, I think I was highlighting how well the likes of Roscoe and Sam were doing. They were having an absolutely fantastic race in the midfield, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the midfield battle at the beginning of the season was well, as we've seen quite a few throughout, especially last season as well. As we've got a bit of laggy behaviour there. Yeah, as we saw last season as well, the midfield battle I think is quite. There's probably about 5 or 6 drivers um, who can just disappear on a race day, depending on the circuit, of course, and the strategies and that sort of thing. But I think pretty much everybody else is capable of competing in that midfield. So it really bunches the pack up quite a lot. And obviously you can see, well, we're not very far into this one, but you can see that there's quite a lot of races all in the same video shot as we got. Oh, as Mr. Elite goes wide, because that scared me there. I thought it was going to be an accident, but I can't remember. I don't remember this far back. So thanks for reminding me now, Sean. So now that we've rewatched it, I can pray for Mr. Elite again. So yeah, so I think obviously the gaps. Well, the races as well. I've had more time on this game now to get accustomed to it and get the setups a bit, or tweak the setups a bit more from season 2, which was obviously the first season on F1 2019, the game. So yeah, I think it just makes for closer racing, doesn't it?
It really does, and I think that was the reason why we went for the random calendar, actually, because now everyone's had one season to customise their driving style. This season 2, the second season on the Formula 1 2019 game, we was expecting so much close racing, and as you said rightly there, Nosey, it was incredible, the midfield battles, and I got watching back this action now is absolutely incredible stuff. As everyone knows, I'm not a big fan of it. Look at that, it's 3 abreast there going down into turn 13. I absolutely love it there, and look at Storm Storm, unfortunately, this was Storm's one and only drive, I think, in ALR Gold before hanging up his boots. Or gloves, I should say, or helmet would be even better. And him and Twang, they're going side by side, and us Gamer as well, actually. Also battling away as well. It's fantastic action in the midfield. Really good stuff indeed there. But then just the midfield this year, either, because look at the names at the top there. We've got Jonathan and Nigel and Echo as well. Is doing really well. We're on board with our champion now of Grant there. Fantastic season last season to win his first title with ALR and possibly the first of many. And you're going to see later on in this race of what he's not just a quick driver. His strategy course is absolutely fantastic. As a safety car.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to interrupt you there, but I think this is where he called it, wasn't it? Because this was the safety car pit stop that he made, I think, wasn't it, on this lap? Was it this lap or on the last lap? It was one of the laps anyway. But yeah, so it was. Yeah, I mean, obviously around Russia, the tyre wear it's not as bad as other circuits. I don't think really. You can get quite a few laps out of the soft tyres, and as we see NUF1 going for an overtake after the safety car restart, but John I think defends it. Yeah, so you can get quite a lot. See, Grant he just takes it around the outside there, on the inside, and then around the outside on the right hander, grabs the lead. And I think pretty much until the last sort of 2 or 3 laps, he built up a big gap, of course, and because the other guys are on harder compounded tyres, and it really just benefited him having made that pit stop under safety car, didn't it?
It really did. But at this point in the race, we're only on lap 12 out of 27. I still don't get it to this day of how he got those soft tyres to last. Yeah, you did say that the tyre degradation is not it's not very high around Russia. I mean, we've seen Rosberg basically do a whole race, didn't we, on one set of tyres basically in 2014. But still, in this modern day Pirelli era, I think that was absolutely exceptional. And I keep mentioning it to this day about how great it was. And we see Martin and Sam there in close combat there. And look at this, the 2 Red Bulls side by side have been fantastic action. And we're on board with Farf. Farf was battling at the front of the field, having a really good qualifying session. But he seems to, since the last season in Bahrain, where he won his last race for ALR, and that was his 3rd race win, he seems to have really struggled as of late. And I'm wondering if it's down to people catching up, or do you feel that he's just struggling a bit in certain areas on the game at the moment?
I think it was just it depends on obviously your personal circumstances as well. But yeah, I think maybe it's just he's happy with where he is at the moment in the game in terms of maybe it's the time constraints and things like that outside of that. So yeah, that's just it's just something that all of us have to deal with. Unfortunately, we don't sit here and play this full time, do we? So unfortunately, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad if we did. If we got paid for it as well, so but yeah, people have to do some work outside of this. But so yeah, I mean, it depends on how much you can get time to get on and maybe not practice, but race in other leagues. As we've got Sam going around the outside of Twan there, and it looks like he's made it stick as well, which is a great overtake. Actually, I didn't spot that before. He picks up a penalty too, but yeah. So, but yeah, I think yeah, I think there's a lot of drivers in this league, obviously with the season being on the same game, that have made changes, made improvements, and obviously some haven't. So yeah, I think in terms of the traction control setups and that sort of thing, just expanding the number of races they do, so that they obviously get more familiarity with the game in terms of the control, especially with the traction control side of things. It's you can tell it gives you a big boost when you get it right. If you get it wrong, it goes horribly wrong. But so it's just yeah, I think maybe some people have got more time to play around with those sort of things, and some people don't, obviously, which is fair enough.
Indeed, and I got to say though, I was looking forward to season 3 a lot. Don't get me wrong, I was loving season 2. Season 2 was fantastic, but season 3 I thought was going to be so much closer. And as you'll see throughout the highlights of this incredible first half of the season, you will just realise how close the championship is. It's fantastic. As we look at this, they're just underlining it for me now. Fantastic racing between Roscoe and Brandon, and I think we've also got new F1 in there as well. Actually, Brandon is new F1, isn't he? And
Yes,
look at
he
that
is.
hat going on the outside. Yeah, I'm on first name terms with him now. You see, me and him are best buds. So Roscoe going on the inside there. Fantastic overtake there between Roscoe and Matt. Then I got to say, Roscoe, another driver that is really has flashed of brilliance there, doesn't he? Nigel going on the inside there. Jonathan and Nigel there, they seem to be battling on the same piece of tarmac. And look at Emerson making a recovery drive there. And he's been making a lot of these over the course of the season. But in Russia, I think it was very impressive of how he managed to get himself back up the order there.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that. I'll go back to Granty there again. Like you said, I think what also really helped him as we're on lap 20 now and the gap's just over 10 seconds here at this stage. So he's done about 10, 11 laps on those softs now. It says 12, but I can't read. But what really helped him as well, as we saw a bit of a clip there before the Emerson overtake, was that Jonathan and Nigel were battling for second position, and obviously that helped not keep the gap extending, but help keep the gap maintained, so that even though Granty's soft tyres were dying, as you'll see, we're on lap 24 now. We've jumped over to lap 24, and the gap's already coming down. Those tyres were going off quickly because they're not expected to do that many laps anyway. But the battling between Nigel and John for P2 really helped keep the gap just in the right place for Granty. As you'll see when we come onto the final lap, what the gap is, it's going to come down drastically.
And we'll go back to the front battle in a minute. But I was enjoying that battle between Echo and Mr. Elite. Mr. Elite seems to have an incredible first race in in his ALR career, and then he seems to drop off slightly. Of course, I remember Australia season 2 had a fantastic start, didn't he? And again with Russia as well. I think this is probably his best performance of the season. And we are going back to this incredible battle. Look at the caliber of drivers. We've got Nigel, we've got Jonathan, we've got Emerson, all race winners in the ALR. And I got to say, I get goosebumps watching these guys race. It's fantastic, and we're on board with Emerson now. As this is a great feature of Russia, which is unusual for me to say anything great about Russia. But I like the fast start to the lap there, and Emerson there getting slightly onto the inside curve there and getting a 3-second penalty. Penalties will become a big factor. And look at that, he's going on the inside there. I've watched this race already several times, but yeah, I still get excited. This is a brilliant race, and I love that between Emerson and Jonathan. And I think that this season though, it's just gone from strength to strength. I mean, Russia was back in January, wasn't it? My goodness me, we have been flying by with for the season so far, and once again, then Emerson and Jonathan battling wheel to wheel. I love the fact that there's no quarter given, no quarter asked there between these guys. It's brilliant to watch as Emerson almost goes into the barrier there.
Yeah. It's I think those four guys. I know you mentioned Mr. Elite there as well for this race, but these four guys are going to be guys. These guys are going to be battling for the championship, aren't they? You can tell that really from their performances before and again in this race. You can tell that they want it quite a lot, don't they? So especially with the manoeuvres and the overtakes and the defending that they're having to make to keep those spots. You can tell they're desperate for it, which is good. It's good to win. You need to finish the race to win it, but it's one of these tracks where you can get away with quite a bit. Obviously, there's quite a lot of room, so but that obviously benefits people who drive safely and don't cut the corners. As you can see, there's quite a few time penalties popping up at the bottom of the screen there. So there's another time penalty. So it's just a case of making sure you've got the right setup, which most of these guys would do anyway, and getting the power down and not cutting all the corners really.
I'm enjoying this battle between Emerson and Jonathan. There, I could rewatch this over and over again, and I do I like the British Italians driving style sometimes of where he's just so attacking, so aggressive there, isn't he? And he's so determined to get by. It's very much he likes to compare himself to Schumacher, kind of back when he was very ruthless in the Ferrari days. And sometimes you do see a lot of ruthless aggression here from Jonathan, isn't it? He tries to get by Emerson, and I was enjoying this battle so much. But here is the winner, Granty. There, doing a fantastic way to start off the season there with, and I look at that, even does a donut fire.
That was a great finish.
I gotta say, that's how I drive, but that's usually not on the last lap. It's usually the first lap. But as we come to the end of that Russian Grand Prix, I know what starts this season. Obviously, I thoroughly enjoyed that season. But look at this, as we highlight already the penalties that you was mentioned on the final few laps that kept coming up there. And for example, the likes of Jonathan dropped all the way down the order there, down to 7th.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to race to the track limits, haven't you? And it really helps you at the end of the race when you've got other racers who've got big penalties like that. You can gain 5 spots, or you can drop 5 spots as Jonathan did. You can see, but it's unfortunate for him on that case. But yeah, I mean, it was a good race overall. I'm just taking a look here at the standings. So unfortunately, everybody in the bottom half of the standings got 0 points, which makes sense, doesn't it? So, which is fair enough. Obviously, big shout out to Mr. Elite in P4 there. Had a great drive from 13th up to 4th. But Williams on top of the constructors with Granty's win.
Yeah, and Renault, of course, the defending constructors champions, having an appalling start, really. And I was expecting big things. Now we're on to the Chinese Grand Prix, which is round 2 there. So China hasn't really moved much in the calendar at all, has it? And Echo there having a cracking start there. Of course, I think that was the second pole position. Brilliant stuff there from Echo there. But Emerson there is trying to sneak back on the inside there. And look at it side by side there. Emerson, I think that I can't speak more highly of the guy. He's been fantastic. He doesn't race much in league racing, so his experience is not as high as some of the other drivers in this league then. But he's just, I think he's a natural, isn't he? He really is there. Of course, I would say that he does have a natural ability of controlling these race cars. Really impressive stuff, isn't it? I think he's more of an Ayrton Senna kind of driver, isn't he? Where he just gets in the car and he's got natural talent, natural raw ability. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think he's. Well, I remember when he joined ALR, he was straight into the car. Oh, he's got a car off in the background there, but yeah, he was straight into the car and he won his first race. So you kind of knew he was going to be fighting for the championship, or even last season, and definitely, of course, this season as well. So yeah, he was unfortunate to miss out to Granty just by the end, wasn't it, on the last race last season? So yeah, he's going to be up there all the time. I think he's had a few dodgy races where he's not either it's been because of qualifying or because of an incident, something like that. But he always gets his head down and carries on and gets as many points as he can later on at the end of that race. So he doesn't get disheartened about issues and things like that at the beginning of the race, because he knows there's so many laps to go, so many things can happen, and he gets the points for it as well.
Yeah, I don't think I'm giving him much credit there, am I, really? Because you just talking about his mentality there, which is absolutely incredible, isn't it? I mean, the likes of me, for example, if I have a pole in like a couple of laps, then that's it, I'm done for. But Emerson just keeps coming at you, doesn't he? He's it's like a horror film, isn't it? Like where you see the bad guy just keeps coming for you. I wouldn't say that Emerson's a bad guy in no way, shape or form, but my goodness me, he's scary how he just keeps coming for you, doesn't he? You cannot rest on your laurels with Emerson in the race, can you?
No, I don't. I think well, these guys here, the top guys who are fighting for the win every time. You know that they're going to be they're going to be on form pretty much every race. There's going to be off days, but you can pretty much guarantee that if you put one of them in any car, they're going to win you that race. So I think it's not just Emerson there. I think there's a handful of guys who really sort of step up their performance on race day, and they really put on a good show. So yeah, well, the likes of Emerson, Jonathan are there, and Twan, Granty, there's Nigel. Nigel's in 7th, I think, at the moment. But those sort of guys who have that mentality that, okay, something bad has happened, or I'm not where I wanted to be qualifying wise. but I'm going to get my head down in the race. I'm going to do these 28 laps, for example, in China, and I'm going to get the max points that I can get. Because at the end of the championship, 21 races. It's a long season. If you keep doing that at whatever track it is, and you finish 5th instead of just retiring in the pits, you get 10 points for that. That's going to help you later on down in the season. So you might as well keep going and get the rewards for it.
And I think that separates the great from the legends, doesn't it, really? And I think already it's a bold statement for me, but I like a bold statement. I would say Emerson is already a legend in ALR, along with all our other race winners. Absolutely fantastic. As Roscoe and Sam are getting too close for comfort by the looks there. And not very. That was interesting to say the least, wasn't it? But well, they seem to really enjoy each other's company there. I think we'll leave them to it, shall we?
We always have to leave her the space. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm starting to remember the. Sorry to cut you off there, Nosey. I'm starting to remember this race very fondly here between Jonathan and Emerson. The battle that these guys had, lap after lap, was absolutely enthralling stuff. I'm a man that sweats quite heavily, but after this race, my goodness me, I had a puddle underneath me. It was an incredible battle between the two greats of ALR, wasn't it? It was fantastic.
Yeah, I think we just missed the start of it. Actually, it was probably on lap 7 here, but it pretty much went on until lap 28 for 21 laps. It was they were nose to tail pretty much, weren't they?
It was fantastic, wasn't it? And I think I remember Jonathan being really upbeat after this race as well. He was, I think the adrenaline was still rushing, still pumping through. And look at that, how Emerson, that was Emerson's favourite overtaking spot in China, wasn't it? It's just lap after lap. Jonathan got by, then Emerson got by. It was brilliant stuff as well. And look at how close these two are. Together on track, then that is skill of the absolute utmost. There it really is there. How they control the car. Remember, it's also about airflow, isn't it? Formula One, there's a lot about aerodynamics and all that kind of stuff, which is well above my pay grade. But it was absolutely fantastic stuff. How they didn't lose downforce, and how they was able to counter all the loss of points in terms of downforce as well. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm getting a bit scientific for myself now.
Yeah, but really it's going over my head. So yeah. We're back on that. I think as you see, granted they're overtaking Twan for P3, but they held it together because you've got to keep concentration in any league race, in any race anyway. But they held it together so well to be side by side through some of these corners, especially around China, that are impossible corners even on your own sometimes, aren't they? And to not make contact, to have a really good and clean race, and show what we want in ALR. We want this sort of racing where it is clean and it's respectful, and I was just it gives you, well, it makes you happier with these guys in particular. Just to say you put on a good show and you get the points for it as well, so you deserve it. So they've done a great job.
They really did, and I think Jonathan's best race in ALR was the Hungarian Grand Prix last season. But I would say this is a very close second. Albeit he didn't get the result he wanted in this race, but I just remember talking to him after the race. He was absolutely buzzing with this. And it just shows what kind of racers these guys are, even if they don't get the results they want. And look at that. That's an incredible maneuver there from Emerson down the inside there. Lick the stamp and send it, as Danny Rick said. But unfortunately, he went in a bit too deep there. But watching this back again there, I love watching our races back. But watching this back again then is absolutely fantastic. I just forget how great this race was, and you just you have to keep watching it back yourselves to just see. And look at that, how composed and cool Jonathan is there, and Emerson is as well. And of course they both come in the pits there just to change tires. We've got Granty who's leading the race now. Who Granty so far in the season hasn't had many exciting battles, has he really? Because everyone's been battling behind him, hasn't they? But Granty seems to keep his nose clean the first two races.
Yeah, it seems like it. He's we saw what he did in Russia with the soft tyres, just to create that gap out in front and sort of breeze away until the very end anyway. But he still managed to get the win. But I just got Farth and Dan. Obviously, the strategy here, I think is either way round you want to use it, but it's mediums and hards. I don't know exactly how many laps it is, but it's that strategy. Depends which way you want to do it. I mean, some people probably have a bit of difficulties getting through Q2 on hard tyres because they're a bit of a hard one to warm up. So it's
Nice pun.
no pun. Yeah. So so it's just we'll go back to Emerson and John, but that was a good drift. That was really well held. Yeah, so it's just obviously there's no rain in this race as well, which is quite helpful for these guys because they can plan their strategy when they get into the qualifying session, and then they know exactly what they're doing. As Jonathan just lost a bit of downforce there under right behind Emerson, it looks like, and just had to recorrect the car. But I think Granty, going back to what you said about Granty earlier in the first race in Russia and this one in China as well, he sort of came under the radar. He didn't start. I don't think he started in the top three, did he? At either of these races, and he's come through. He gets into the podium, and like I said, he puts his head down and he gets to work, and he gets the rewards for it as well. So yeah, we've seen Williams top of the constructors from the first race, of course, with his win, and obviously him at the top of the leaderboard because of that, because it was the first race. But we've got him here, who he's obviously gone on the alternate strategy to Emerson and Jonathan. They started on the mediums, and they went to the hards. He started on the hard tyres, lower down the grid, but he's now put on the medium tyre, the faster compound, and has taken the lead.
That's absolutely fantastic. It really is. Then I think it's coming back to me now of how I was giving Granty a glowing reference, wasn't I? If you ever wants a job, come to me. Goodness me, that's all I seem to do is talk positive about the man. But in this race, if we watch Murphy there, I think he's taken alternative routes rather than strategy there. Unfortunately, him and Grillsy have come to blows. But we'll come back to Dan in a minute. But before we do, Granty in the first two races have been absolutely fantastic with his strategy calls. And it might be a bit of a boring subject, but I love strategy and I also love the tyres and what they choose to do what. It's not easy to do the alternative strategy and keep up the pace, is it? Because again, it's all about the mental capacity as well. Because you're going to be losing time in the first strategy compared to the guys on the medium tyres, on the supposedly faster tyre. So it's keeping just yourself in the right frame of mind. Then, as we got a wayward twang there, just going slightly off the track.
Yeah, sorry. Back to that then. Yeah, I mean, well, the only reason for that is obviously usually it's the hard tyre against the medium tyre on the first stint in terms of alternative strategy, and it just takes the hard tyre so long to warm up that the guys on the mediums can breeze by and breeze ahead. They will obviously switch on and catch up when as we've seen Granty just crossing the finish line for his second win of the season out of two. So they will warm up, and obviously the strategies will flip effectively. So that's how the strategy works. But I think it was Farth and Nigel who caught the spotlight in this one, because obviously they started quite low down in the grid. And obviously there was no penalties in this race either, which was very nice to see. Apart from I think there was one for a 5-second penalty there, but I'm not sure what that was for exactly. But yeah, Farth and Nigel from 13th and 16th on the grid up to P4 and P5. Pretty fantastic job, I think.
You mentioned there that's a complete change from Russia, wasn't it? Where we had penalties galore. And I think that 5-second penalty was for Jonathan for slightly cutting the hairpin in the long back straight, which is very brutal, I've got to say. The Codemasters can be very brutal, that. And you see young lights are moving up 9 positions there, and also Forza moving at 9 positions as well. But that's because it's so early in the championship, and Dan also moving at 9 positions as well. Farfar had a very good race as well. Emerson now clawing his way back up the standings, back in the third there, with Jonathan also up in the 4th position as well. In the constructors, Mercedes have gone up to third as well. Renault have come from the bottom and moved up to 5th as well. So some big movers in that. But remember, this that was only round 2, wasn't it? Before we move on to the Monaco Grand Prix, the jewel in the crown there. And we're away well as we go into Sainte Devote there. And Emerson leads then with Farf right up in 2nd position. It's great to see Farf up there, isn't it? In the red Ferrari there, and then coming up the hill. Then look at this, it's absolutely incredible stuff, isn't it? I got to say, having a race around Monaco, it's absolute bananas there. as we got a Van Doom in the background there. Of course, his one and only race started in ALR. Unfortunately, his connection wasn't up to par, as we're going to find out later on.
Well, I'd just like to go back
yeah.
to back to Emerson, Farth, Nigel, Granty, Echo, Fisher, Steve, Stringy, NUF1, all those guys there in the top 10. I think they're all race winners, aren't they? So they know how to do it, and I think you can tell they've managed to get the performance out in qualifying. Monaco's notoriously difficult to overtake at. So fantastic job to all these guys to keep battling on one of the toughest circuits in Formula One. Which I just have to say it's probably the worst circuit in Formula One in terms of overtaking, that sort of thing. We've got a bit of a mix up at the chicane now. I think somebody clipped the wall.
I think that was Nigel absolutely demonstrating your point of view perfectly there, Naughty. So I think that we give Nigel a quid after this, shall we?
All right then.
Anyway, we've also got Gunnar there, who's got no front wing at all, unfortunately for the Irishman. The driver with the most ALR at starts. So fantastic stuff there from Gunnar. I say it every time he races there. I do love my stats. On board Sam then as well. Let's quick point on Sam. This is Sam's first Grand Prix start in ALR in Season 2. And I remember saying in qualifying how he improved by 4 seconds over the course of the season. That's absolutely fantastic stuff. So hats off to Sam. Brilliant, as he is just getting better and better each day, isn't he? And now is Fisher, who should be on pole position, but he had a 5-place grid penalty in qualifying, which is probably... was a bit harsh. We didn't catch on the stream, unfortunately, but I'm sure that Fisher did show us afterwards. But that's the nature of the beast, really, isn't it? We've got Jonathan and Toon fan there getting very close there through Casino Square then. And Jonathan there riding his luck and getting through there here in Monaco. With 39 laps around here, I think it's the most lappage in the whole of the season there. And as you said there, Nosey, it's such a tough... Oh, dear! That's Steve there. It's hit the seafront chicane again.
Yeah, so like I said, I think back to the strategy side of things around Monaco, I think you can pretty much get away with the mediums and softs actually for the whole race, for 50% race. So yeah, you can get quite a lot of life. Again, you're not really using the tyres too much in terms of the speed and the actual force that's going through them. Obviously, the car's going quickly, but compared to other circuits, it's not as bad. So yeah, the tyre life isn't too bad around Monaco. You're not going through lots of fast-paced corners all the time, are you? So you can extend that tyre life quite well. It looks like some guys have actually gone on. Maybe they made an early pit stop, or maybe they started on them, but they've gone on the hard tyres, which can effectively get you the whole length of the race in this one.
And track position is king around here, isn't it? As we're watching Granty go at the hill, then our championship leader only down in 13th position at the moment. We see how his progression unfolds throughout this race. Then, and you see Fisher there is having he's storming on the street circuits, isn't he? We've seen in Singapore last season, absolutely dominating performance, wasn't it? Looking at he's going on the outside, far off into the chicane. Oh, as they come to blows, and that was a brave manoeuvre there from Fisher. I've got to say, he's pretty good around Monaco, isn't he, Fisher? Has he got pole position? He should have got pole position. And he's already moved himself up into second position then before, and we're only on at lap 7 as well. I think this is also the race where I realised that I don't know how to start an F1 lobby, which also caused some kind of lols in the group chat, which unfortunately that was a horrific day for me. So, less said about that the better.
Yeah, well, it didn't affect anything, did it? We all got into the race anyway, so that's all good. But as you see, the safety cars come out on lap 11 now. So I think that really gave the leaders, gave the two leaders here actually, Fisher and Emerson. It just gave them time to pit and get some fresh boots on to the end of the race. Fisher I think he was rapid round here, wasn't he, in qualifying? So he started down in 5th, but he made his way through quite quickly, and that put Emerson under pressure from the safety car restart.
It did indeed, and Emerson. If I was Emerson, I would have been very concerned at the rate that Fisher was gaining. You see, Jonathan had some escapades in the early stages of this race, but he moved himself up into 3rd position there and underlining exactly what you was mentioning earlier on, just throwing on the hard tyres and just going with it. Jonathan didn't stop under that safety car, and he is absolutely improved his position tenfold as we're about to get racing once again in here in Monaco. And Fisher is very close there as a Toon fan is come to grief with Grillsy there in the background. But Emerson, that was a cracking start, actually. I don't think I appreciate that at the time. That's an absolutely beautiful start for Emerson. Really nailed it. But Fisher was fantastic around here. As we said, though, he's very good around the street circuits, isn't he? As they all seem to come through outside the vault just about in one piece. Granty, once again, way down in 13th position, but he's gone the soft tires. And he's also, him and Likely Racer having a good old duel there, coming through to back there. Lovely bit of overtaking there from Granty. I think this is the first race of the season where Granty really didn't have it all his own way, though.
Yeah, I think he had a bit of difficulty around Monaco, didn't he? And well, he's not the only one. So sometimes it happens, and sometimes it goes even worse than the 11th place at the moment either as well. So I mean, like I said, it's all about mentality, and he didn't give up. He carried on going, and we'll see where he finishes at the end of this highlight. But again, it's one of the toughest circuits to finish, really. Like I said, you've got to keep your concentration so high, because obviously you get one turn in wrong, it leads you into a wall, and then at the exit, so pretty much every corner. So there's not much room for manoeuvre. As you see, it's quite close between these drivers after the safety car restart, and anything could happen, and it could cause another safety car, really, couldn't it?
I think quite close as an understatement there, Nosey. As you said that, I was counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, and look at that, they were all over the back there. As Echo, there was the Trilly train, wasn't he? As he was doing his best impression of the Trilly train, wasn't he, in this race? He was absolutely fantastic as well. Farfan looked so desperate to get by there, and the first 3 races for Farf, he has been at the sharper end of the field, hasn't he? He's in the last couple of races we're going to cover in this review, he doesn't seem to be at the sharp end too much. It's it was getting very spicy there coming out of the C French cane. I think you do have to get your elbows out sometimes around here, but that was very forceful there from Farf, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he wanted to get that move done quickly, didn't he? Because you could see the gap forming in front of Echo, so he pushed his way through a bit there. But no, I think it was almost fair enough. So there was quite a lot of space left, or as much space as you can around Monaco was left, which isn't much, but of course you got to get it done. I think Valve probably thought, Echo's holding me up here a bit, so I'm going to just get my elbows out, like you said, and get past him, get some more points.
And indeed, then as well, I might be a bit soft there, but it was definitely, I felt like it was out there, but it was still a cracking move. And look at this is the battle for the lead here in Monaco between Fisher and Emerson. And once again, we had Emerson and Jonathan. Now we've got Emerson and Fisher there. As you said earlier on, Nosey, about the top 9 or top 10 drivers there, they've all been league racers, whether it's here or somewhere else. They know exactly how to win a league race. And that just shows the caliber of ALR Gold is absolutely brilliant stuff. And to underline that again, then we've got Fisher battling away with Emerson. We've got another contender, haven't we? It's great stuff indeed. And Fisher is now starting to really forge a very successful career in ALR as they come through San Vault again. We're back with a man who actually won the first title in ALR, which is at Nigel there, Season 1 champion. Of course, they've got the most points in ALR history so far, the Racing Point driver. As he decided to come in the pits and as he's lost a bit of the wing there, which is unfortunate for the Racing Point driver. And now Brandon is the next man to attempt to overtake Echo. As Echo seems to be the cork in the bottle, doesn't he? As I
think he was. That's definitely what Far thought, wasn't it? So he's. It seems like the other guys have caught up to him quite quickly there, but you can't. Well, again, it doesn't have to come down to pace. Around Monaco, because obviously, like you said, it's you want to have track position, don't you? And it doesn't really have that many. Oh, it's got another yellow flag there for a stranded Ferrari. It doesn't have that much effect on the cars in front. Obviously, when there's a driver like we saw in real life on the softer compound or on a different strategy, because the track's so difficult to overtake on. So, as we saw with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, you can have the most the deadest tyres, the tyres without any tyre life, and still get the result and stay ahead of your opponent.
And I think that was one time where Lewis Hamilton's tyres was actually gone there. He is a bit dramatic about his tyres every now and again, isn't he? And Jonathan's now made his way up to the second position as well then. As Emerson comes out of the pits there, Jonathan is on 26 lap hold, 27 lap hold hard tyres there. Twinkle toes Jonathan is around here at the moment there as Emerson coming out of the pits there. I remember at the time, I was questioning this, I think, which, to be honest, that's because I am not I'm not academically great when it comes to strategy or anything like that. But I was quite surprised to see Emerson come in the pits there. But we'll find out if that was to his advantage or not. Then, as you can see, Fisher is having some troubles here at the moment, trying to get by Brandon.
Fisher pit, so Emerson was covering him off.
Oh, and Fisher, very nice move over there. I would have said that if I was Emerson, but that is what is Fisher struggling to get around the hairpin there. Look at Steve there, good on the inside. Fisher's had some issues there, hasn't he? I was still quite surprised that Emerson came in to cover off Fisher, but that's why I'm not a league racer, you see, Nosey, because I would have had the brain to come in.
Oh, well, that's all right. You can stick in commentary. That's fine. It's safer for everyone. So, back to this one. I think Jonathan here I think he got those hard tyres, 27 laps, it looks like. But he's putting on the soft tyres now, so he's just making sure he could reach a window where he could put the softest compound tyre on and really put his foot down and go for it and set some purple laps.
Yeah, and because he's also a quick shout out to Steve as well, as he's just coming through and up into fourth position. Good stuff from Steve. Then it's always getting very dicey there, isn't it, between Jonathan and I think that was a lap car, wasn't it? So, Steve up to fourth position. Fantastic drive from Steve. I think Steve has the most rottenest luck. As a Fisher, she's gone into the back of Jonathan there. Misjudged his braking point. We've had a couple of drivers there. In fact, I remember Kimi Räikkönen went to the back of Sutil in 2008 there, which broke my heart, to be honest, because at the time that would have been Force India's first ever points, I think, in Formula 1. So, I wasn't a very happy man with Kimi Räikkönen, which is only a few times. As a Toon fan is also crawling there as well. But, you can see how this race is just in 32 laps. We've gone from Fisher, singing the praises for Fisher, to him struggling down in 11th position there. It just changes so quickly around Monaco, doesn't it? It's brutal.
Yeah, it is. It's an absolutely brutal track. And well, most street circuits are. Just purely because there's nowhere to escape to if you make a mistake, and that's why the concentration has to be so high throughout every second of this race, and the qualifying as well, to be honest.
Yeah, qualifying, the most important qualifying of the season. I have no doubt about that. As Emerson, who was the man on pole position there, is still leaning at the moment. Then, as we're having all kinds of shenanigans going down into oh dear, that's not gone too well at all. As let's move on from that. As unfortunately, I think Fisher would like to as well after that ends a pretty miserable second half of the race there. Quick shout out to Granty, who's actually moved up into fourth position there. Fantastic overtake there from Granty on the outside of Echo. That's a brilliant overtake from Granty, and just keeping on with it as well. I think I was cheering Sam in the commentary box here. I sometimes can be a bit biased, so apologies about that, guys. But I was definitely cheering on Sam today because I thought it was quite poetic how debuted his in this race last season. A bit of a difficult start in his ALR career, but today, well, in the Monaco Grand Prix anyway, he had an absolutely spectacular drive. I felt, and he was battling with the world champion, with the season 1 world champion Nigel. Any thoughts on Sam's drive in Monaco, Nosey?
He's a great driver. I know he has a bit of bad luck here and there sometimes, but he's actually got good pace. It's not been founded just yet. Sometimes in various races, but I think on his day, like we saw today in Monaco, he can get some decent points as he's battling with Nigel, going up to Casino Square, which is a bit of a terrible place to battle because you can see what happens there. But yeah, I think. Like I said, back to the concentration side of things. I know sometimes it's difficult.
It is indeed, isn't it? As I think the police was coming because I think that there's going to be some criminal justice going on here, and that is because Farfar is going to have to be slapped with the law there, isn't he? As he unfortunately got a 5-second penalty. It was getting very dicey there, wasn't it? Between Farfar and Jonathan. I remember that was very dicey, doesn't it, Alex? Of course, a bit of dramatic sounds. But of course, the Farf and Jonathan Jonathan. There's a lot of debate after the race about that, which I quite enjoyed, to be fair, because I love it. I like when drivers really voice their own opinions, isn't it? Because it means a lot. It means so much to these drivers, doesn't it? People say. I even get energy drinks on the go these days to get myself really pumped up and ready to go. And look at Jonathan, he is so pumped up and ready to go, but I don't think that's going to end too well there. We're on the final lap, 39 laps around here. It's been absolutely incredible stuff. Only 9 cars are still in this race. So he's going on the inside down into Mirabel. Fantastic maneuver there. Once again, I'm not meant to be commentating on this, but sometimes I just can't help it. I think overall, I quite enjoyed the Monaco Grand Prix. There were some outstanding results there. I think Sam's won, but Emerson getting his first race win of the season here in Monaco. He doesn't do well in qualifying, but well, up until this season anyway, and he got a good pole position there. And since then, he had a really good drive there in Monaco. What was your thoughts at the end of that race?
I thought it was unlucky for Fisher. I think he should have won that one overall. I think he would have just walked away with it. But I like to go back to Granty, where we said he was down in P11, wasn't he, or P13 up to P11. Started 4th on the grid, finished 2nd with 4 pit stops. I think he's a shout out to him for an incredible race.
Yeah, 4 pit stops as well. I think he was watching the French Grand Prix 2004. I think Ferrari won that race with 4 pit stops, didn't they? But yeah, Granty once again. I was a bit critical of him actually in the halfway through that race. Perhaps I shouldn't have been, really. I should have really thought about that long term. Sam moving up 6 positions to 11th position there. A great drive there for Sam. Absolutely fantastic from the McLaren driver. And Steve having a strong result as well, moving up to 6th position with Jonathan and Emerson now into 2nd and 3rd position in the Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors, Haas have moved up, big moves have moved up to 6th position. Renault dropping down to 8th, and Renault having a very difficult start then to the season 3 lines. We go on to the British Grand Prix. We're on round 5 then. The home of motorsport, as Echo gets a jump start there, as he was, I think he was doing his best impression of Fisichella there, as Jonathan once again on pole position there. Now, that man is a king of one laps, isn't he? Fantastic stuff there. But behind him, it was anyone's ball game, wasn't it? Look at them all. Incredible stuff there. Even used some extra bit of track limits there. Fantastic stuff there. It was drama from the get-go here in Silverstone, wasn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah, I think, well, you'll see later on in this as well, and this is probably one of the sort of highlights for the season so far as well in terms of gold. The top 5, they're pretty much identical in terms of their pace in this race. The top 5, they build out that gap, and they're racing hard but fair for the rest of the race pretty much. So yeah, it was a credit to them. They did a fantastic job this race.
They did. One person who didn't do a fantastic job, unfortunately, was Emerson. Emerson retired, and he had a pretty appalling qualifying, didn't he? And then, unfortunately, didn't make it through lap 1. As unfortunately, his demise came at Copse Corner, and we had a virtual safety car then to kind of calm down that frantic first lap action, which is what you expect at Silverstone, isn't it? It's an amazing track. I can't say much more about it. Young Lights in a Roscoe going side by side as well. We've seen Twan there, and Young Lights come to blow at Copse as well. Copse seems to be very difficult. And lovely overtake there from Roscoe on the outside. That's a fantastic manoeuvre there from the Williams driver. Brilliant stuff. But Mumford, they're making his debut, and I think he made a very solid drive in Silverstone. Mumford in the Mercedes. I was quite impressed with Mumford.
Yeah, I think hats off to him as well. He kept the Mercedes seat, didn't he? Because I think he basically reserved for this race has got a Ferrari out in the distance somewhere. He reserved for this race, Mumford did, and then the full-time seat became available in that car as well. So he jumped straight into it, and he's not really looked back since, has he? He's one of those drivers who sometimes he'll get the points and help out the constructor side of things. Unfortunately, sometimes he gets a bit unlucky with maybe it's just a bit depending on the track as well, because everybody has their favourites and their not so favourites. But he's a consistent driver. He does a good job, and he's very fair and reliable. So yeah, I think he's very good.
And now then we're coming up to the battle between Fisher and Jonathan there. I think Fisher really, I think Fisher consistency is probably one of the, might be one of the chinks in his armor there, isn't he? Because my goodness me, his out and out speed is fantastic. And you see, look at him go, oh, Jonathan there, showing a rear wheel there for Fisher. Oh goodness me. And look at this, now Nigel involved as well. Look at that. As you said, Nosey, at the beginning of this season, the beginning of this round 5 race there, the top 5, Jonathan, Fisher, Nigel, Granty and Fireshot, brilliant drivers, and I think that throughout the race then, this was, I hate to say it, well I don't hate to say it at all, because I shouldn't really have a favourite race, should I, but I really enjoyed this race. This is probably one of my favourites in terms of the calibre at the front there, brilliant stuff, isn't it? We've got Jonathan amazing on one lap pace, we've got Fisher who is just ever present there, Nigel and Granty, 2 champions, and Fireshot, who I think this is where Fireshot's season really started to build back up then, because in the first 4 races, Fireshot just seemed to have the pace, but was involved in some silly first lap incidents, wasn't he? And you're just watching Steve there going on the outside of Matt as well. And Steve, Matt, and Roscoe had a race-long battle, I think, as these guys just kept themselves basically within touch with each other, didn't they? Steve going on the outside into Stowe there. Oh, fantastic maneuver there from Steve. Steve and Roscoe really was trying to get overtaken today, wasn't they? Today. Oh, but Matt going back on the outside, fantastic. These three were battling quite hard in this race. It was absolutely brilliant stuff. And back to the front, and Jonathan has still got the lead there. I think he's done some amazing bit of defending. Granted there and Nigel there coming to blows, and the 2 champions there trying to assert their dominance here, aren't they? But I'm not sure if that's the way to do it, is it?
No, I think maybe it was a bit of a lack of concentration on that one occasion on that corner or other. So it's like I said, back to, well, I'd have to say the midfield battle is from P6 and below now, but the gaps are pretty close around from P6 down to sort of P11, P12ish, somewhere around there. So those guys, like you saw with Roscoe, Stee and Bilton, they're battling all the way, even though it's not for the massive points. And just saw there how the kart control from Fisher to keep it on track, or keep it on the grass rather, and then get back on track, going side by side through that corner. I think it's Cox, isn't it? Sorry, with Jonathan. One of the most difficult overtaking spots, just to hold the car around that corner as well on your own. So he's done a great job there to maintain P2 as well.
Superhuman, that was really good stuff. And as you can see, Nigel and Granty once again they're battling tooth and nail. I've really enjoyed this. I think that this is a perfect way to spend a lovely Sunday afternoon, isn't it? Between watching these guys absolutely battle wheel to wheel, nose to tail. Top 5 was absolutely brilliant as well. Strategy is going to come into play in a minute as well, then, because when you're battling in this close 5-car battle, how difficult is it from a racer's point of view, Nosey, to call the shots and maybe think about changing tyres? How do you do that?
I think on this occasion, because the race was quite set in terms of what the strategy was. I think they knew when they were pitting, apart from Jonathan here, who came in very early on lap 10. It looks like for a set of hard tyres, I believe.
It was.
So yeah, I think you've got to stick to, unless there's a safety car or a VSC where you can benefit from it. You've got to stick to your strategy and put your foot down. And that's what these guys did. They did a great job of it. And obviously they were on similar pace to each other, which meant they were close on track at the same time. So it really added to the spectacle, didn't it?
Do you think Jonathan came in the pits out for the hard tyres because he just got overtaken by Fisher? Do you think it was a knee-jerk reaction, was it, to try and get the undercut, perhaps? Do you think it was a bit out of desperation, that move?
Possibly, yeah, but I don't think, as we see Granty pitting early, only 4 laps later for the soft tyres. I think he just made the wrong call, and he could have just stuck with it. He would have got DRS and more speed on Fisher later on in that lap, but unfortunately he lost out to Granty here, who pit a few laps later and has come out ahead of him.
Indeed, and it also underlines as well. Grant on soft tires, Jonathan on hard tires. The undercut didn't work at all. Unfortunately for Jonathan there, as he tries to have a good old lunge there down the winter straight there. Now, actually, a good move out from Jonathan, but he would do very well to keep Grant at bay there as they come out of left field. I remember saying though that I thought it was going to be a medium to hard strategy there. So again, I don't know anything at all about Grand Prix racing, which is quite surprising considering the fact I've covered 3 seasons of this league now, and I still don't know what's going on. So yeah, make it out what you will. Fisher coming out track now, and Grant, he had an incredible in and out lap, didn't he? He really was. And he was in the facility of Fisher, but Fisher just about creeping out in front of Granty, and I see Farf there in second position. When Farshot decided to stay out slightly longer than everyone else there to see if he can come back at these guys towards in racing. But I feel that might have been a mistake there from Farshot, because he kind of got cut adrift in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, much like Jonathan being too early, I think Farshot left it too late and really just affected his race.
Yeah, unfortunately for Farshot, but of course, fortune favours the brave there. And talking of brave, my goodness me, that was just about a car with Farf left, Granty. I think at the time we was quite surprised how much Farf was battling away there between these guys, there, wasn't it? Farf showing really showing us some killer instinct and maybe a bit of desperation at the same time as well, as he has a good old lunge on the inside. Oh dear, oh dear. Unfortunately, that didn't go too well at all for Farf. Yeah, I was quite surprised that Farf was battling. And don't get me wrong, I do love it when these guys battle. And sometimes I don't enjoy when people let their fellow racers through them, because it is meant to be racing. But I think Farf really bit off more than he can chew there, and possibly caused himself a pretty poor result in the end.
Yeah, I think it looked like Farf was trying to pit there actually, because I believe he was on he'd started on those medium tyres, and it was they were getting a bit old, but yeah, I don't know what he was trying to do there really. But yeah, so Granty and Nigel resuming their battle from the first stint as well. So that they were pretty much side by side for the most of this race, weren't they? But they did a great job of obviously there was bumps and scrapes here and there, but that's going to happen sometimes, especially around this track where you've got to be aggressive on under braking, that sort of thing. So no, hats off to them. They did a great job. They were clean and fair and showed respect to each other.
Indeed, and of course, both of them champions as well. I was buzzing about this. I really was. I was like a kid in a candy store. Yeah, I was a kid in a candy store. I was absolutely enjoying this between Nigel and Granty. It was brilliant stuff. And into the pits comes Farshot now. Some 4 laps later than the rest of them, which unfortunately 8 laps to go, he was making himself a mammoth task as well. It's a long pit lane around here as well, which is probably why the strategy was quite straightforward, albeit I still got it wrong anyway. Jonathan there in 4th position in the end. Just looking down the field there, Mr. Elite in 10th position. Twang is I got to say, Twang, of course, has been one of the fan favourites of ALR, hasn't he? He's always there or thereabouts. Unfortunately, he hasn't got driver of the day yet as well. I only mentioned that as a bit of banter. But of course, then I think that Twang is... I think he's the Renault pairing of Twan and Danny. I remember when the draw came out, when you did the live draw, Nilsy. I was really excited about the Renault pairing as Nigel and Grant once again resumed their battle. But the Renault pair really struggled. Both Dan and Twan did in the early stages of the season. What do you think that was? Do you think it was? Because what do you think that was? Was it just down to the amount of racing that those guys were doing? Lack of racing? What was going on there?
I think it was a combination of all of those really. I think they just I think they used to. I think they went into thinking this season's going to be the same as last season, and we're going to get some big points here. And unfortunately, some other drivers decided that wasn't going to be the case. So as we see there, Fisher claiming top spot on the podium, followed by Nigel and Granty. But I said, well, everybody there from P1 down to P7 actually did a fantastic race in terms of setting the pace and just getting on with it. Well done to everybody else who obviously finished as well. But yeah, those guys did a great job, and I think the top 5, like I said, there battled so well throughout that they all deserve driver of the day for that one, I think.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed race was, and a shout out to Matt as well for getting no penalties, which is quite a achievement in of itself, wasn't it? I think that actually propelled him up in front of Mumford in the end. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Mumford, they're in his debut, they're moving up to 17th, fantastic stuff. And far shot, a strong performance for him, and moved himself right to 11th, just outside the top 10. Fisher, though, I've got to say, probably the most happiest. That was the first score. That was the first time he actually scored today in the British Grand Prix. In the Constructors' Tour, also another team where I was expecting to be at the sharp end. Unfortunately, only 7th, with Williams and Mercedes swapping positions then. Onto the Hungarian Grand Prix. A very technical, twisty circuit there, isn't it? As they're away then for 35 laps around this dust bowl of a track there. Once again, Jonathan on pole position there. I think he's getting a bit old now, isn't it? But I've got to say, he's fantastic in qualifying. I can't just say many more about it. But we got Bowden, who has made his one and only appearance so far. And I've got to say, he threw the cat bugs and pitches there, didn't he? He really came in, and he's had I think this is his 11th start in ALR. Up until then, I don't think Bowden really had. He was more of a midfield runner, but my goodness me, in qualifying he was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, though, Jonathan and Bowden really did come to blows here. Or I looked at that several times, and you can see it was all a bit of a mess there, wasn't it? And it really caused safety cars. It was. Let's just say it was a pretty frightful start then to the Hungarian Grand Prix there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess, unfortunately, but well, I think it wasn't really. Well, sorry, it wasn't really a mess. It was all caused by the first and second drivers having a bit of a coming together in a turn that is quite blind when you go around the corner of it. So yeah, people didn't have much time to react, obviously. So yeah, gave Emerson the advantage and Neko as well to get on with it and get going. This is after I don't know if it was a safety car or if it was a VSC, but yeah, it was after the yellow flags anyway. As you can see, it's Jonathan's down in P18 now, and Bogan's down in P16, so it really didn't help their races, did it?
No, unfortunately not. And that incident there, I think it was quite. I'm glad I'm not a driver steward, by the way. That's a Ferrari off, and that's a Stringy who's unfortunately in the hedge as well, by looks. But he's doing a good job to come back on the track there. I think Vettel, who also drives the same car with me, he should learn a thing or two about coming on the track there. Yeah, well done, Stringy. Going back to that incident there, because it was a major talking point at the time there. I think I was still yapping away about it after 10 laps. As Farf and Chucky come to blows as well. And unfortunately, Farf needed to probably do what his teammate did a lap or two ago, unfortunately, as Bowden and Farf also come together. So Bowden having a bit of a rude awakening coming back to ALR there, wasn't he? But yeah, going back to that first lap incident with Jonathan and Bowden, I couldn't tell if there was anyone's fault to blame. I'm glad not a driver steward. What was your viewpoint on it?
I think it was there was a bit of a lag. It was a laggy session, as you can see. There's quite a few connection issues popping up on the drivers' names here, but I think that played a part because looking at the footage, I don't think there was any red indicators or from Jonathan's point of view anyway. So it looked like it was one of those lag things, lag spikes that was all just there. I think that was also the same situation where the guy starts spinning out, but nobody's actually touched him. So yeah, unfortunately, it's happened a few times, and it's not good, and it's just down to Codemasters to fix, unfortunately. Hopefully, we can get it fixed, or they can get it fixed.
Yeah, hopefully so. I'm going to be very clever here. I think I heard it being called a lag bubble, which I quite like, to be honest. But unfortunately, if I was a driver, I'd be absolutely fuming. To be fair, both Bowden and Jonathan there were right at the sharp end, really. And I was really looking forward to having them two battling at the front there, especially with Bowden making a electric return there. Fantastic step. As we're just taking a look at Toon and Matt there getting very feisty coming down into turn 2. Good old stuff there indeed. Then you can see on board Jonathan, who's trying to make his way back through the field as well. And we've also got Chucky also making his return as well. So a lot of returnees in this race. So back to the future kind of thing, wasn't it? Really? I think I should have been Doc, really, shouldn't I? My DeLorean. As they're coming through the fast turn 4, and look at this. Then I think that was Lights there. Lights having he had a really up until this point. I think he was having an up and down season in ALR. But we'll talk about his season and how it changes later on. And Wow, how sir? Fair play
Very well
to
held.
fair play to lights.
Yeah,
Goodness
he
me.
came in. He came in, and his like you said, his first couple. I think it was his first 2 or 3 races with bad performances. He only got some small points, and he was a bit disheartened about it as well. I mean, because he knew he could do better than this, or than that rather. And yeah, he again switched his head on and went for it.
He did indeed. Then, as we're just watching VTOG, we'll mention VTOG more in the silver review, of course, which will also be released at tomorrow. But but going back to the gold, then you see Jonathan now back into 9th position. This was the story of the race there. Look at Roscoe. My goodness me, he was a day late and $1 short there, wasn't he? On the Toon fan, I would have been very unimpressed with that if I was a Toon fan. But Roscoe and the Toon resume their battle. Unfortunately, Roscoe's gone way out wide now, and also Mumford involved there as well. I really enjoyed this. Fantastic action, isn't it? Up and down the field there. Of course, Granty has got just about just about an advantage over Fisher, albeit 3/10 of a second. I'm enjoying the battle between the two heavyweights at the front there, but we're just focused on the midfield at the moment. There's oh goodness me, Emerson there. I forgot Emerson was even in this race. My goodness me, he's right down in 11th position at the moment there. Emerson is, but as you mentioned about this, I think it was in Russia. Emerson does have an uncanny knack of even if he has a poor start or gets involved in some shenanigans or has a poor qualifying, he will always be there or thereabouts. His retirement rate is very low in ALR. I think it's like run retirements in like 10 odd races or something like that. It's ridiculously low.
Yeah, I think it's credit to him as well. He doesn't let anything affect him, and he gets past his teammate there. I think a bit of team orders there just to get the Mercedes some more points later on in the race. But you can see he's made his pit stop a bit earlier than the others just now. So yeah, maybe he's doing. I can't remember what the strategy was around here. I think it might have been a 2-stop actually. So yeah, we can see he's he's going for it. I mean, you can. There's quite a lot of races that you see. Oh, we've got a spinning Roscoe there. There's quite a lot of races that you see that are really quick and really good at being quick, but they can't really handle it when they're in the mid pack or when they're having to fight people. And Emerson can do both, and so can Granty and Fisher actually to an extent as well. So yeah, it just shows that the caliber and the talent these guys have.
It is. It's not. It's. I suppose. Dare I say it's easy to go quick? No, it's not at all. But to have both is an unusual skill, isn't it? And as you just said there, Nosy, we got it in abundance, haven't we? I mean, Fisher, Granty, we got Emerson there as well. Absolutely brilliant stuff indeed. We're on board with Emerson. Sorry, with Mumford. I apologise, Mumford. That's the problem. They're both in the same cars there. I just I get too excited. Striggy there is also just making his way through the field as well. Stringy, I'm gotta say that Stringy, a bit like Young Lights, really has had a pretty disappointing start to the season. I remember Stringy in the first couple of races in ALR, he was very consistent. He was scoring points after points after points. But I'm not sure if he just doesn't like the Ferrari or whatnot. But he's really struggling in the opening races here in season 3.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just maybe again, like I said, the abilities of other drivers or the improvements of other drivers, should I say, has just pushed him a bit further down the order. But again, there's plenty of time in the season. Like I said, there's 21 weeks. You've got time to make those improvements yourself, get back on par, and then carry it on and get some more points for yourself and your team. So yeah, I think later on in the season, Stringy, and maybe it's just the tracks don't favour him. It could almost be something as simple as that. I mean, like I said, it's a random calendar. Most people will be familiar with the regular calendar, the actual Formula One calendar, and that's how the leagues will format. So yeah, maybe it's just been a bit. People have just been a bit thrown off because this is only 6 races into the season, or well, almost a third of the way through actually. But it sounds quite a long way through, but there's only 21 races. But yeah, so I think there's plenty of room for him to grow and to come back fighting in the top half of the championship.
That's a very good point you made there about the random calendar. Do you think then that that's what happens to the likes of Farfar and Stringy, for example? I don't mean to pick on those two drivers because I'm just bringing them up because they had a fan. I think season 2, Farf had 2 race wins in the first 2 races, brilliant stuff, and Stringy there was scoring points after points after points. But season 3, they've both really struggled in the mid pack or with a lot of DNFs as well. So do you think that is actually the calendar where they're so used to the official calendar where they're just really it's about mindset again, isn't it? But do you think that's what their problem's been this season?
I think it's possible. I mean, I just again, like I said, sometimes you just don't fancy a track, and obviously a random calendar throws that up quite often in terms of it mixes everything up, and you could have 5 of your best tracks all in 5 weeks, but you could also have 5 of your worst tracks in 5 weeks as well. So it really just it depends on the driver's preferences really, and whether they're up for it really, whether they can put their foot down and get a good result. I mean, obviously, the strategy, the conditions, the other drivers, and the abilities and things like that all come into play in terms of getting a result. But yeah, it's just what you can do to negate any differences or any sort of negatives and get some points.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have 21 tracks I'm not very good at, so yeah, it could be worse, guys. Jonathan's made his way back through the field, and I think that Jonathan in this race was absolutely superb. Really was. I think as we got Street there retired from the session, but I think he had a cracking drive. I think this is probably I was talking about how great his drive was in a couple of races previously, but I did mention about season 2 Hungary was probably his best driver of his career. But again, I think in the 2 races we've covered in this season, Jonathan has had 2 absolutely outstanding drives. One in China and this one in Hungary, which was absolutely fantastic the way he drove him back from the field. He seems to like this technical track around here, doesn't he? Jonathan does. But as you said, unfortunately, his race didn't go too well. Virtual safety cars, and we've seen Emerson come in the pits. We've also got Matt coming in the pits as well. Fisher and Grant have both stayed out there. And it was now the chase is on, isn't it, to see who can catch up and overtake Jonathan with just a handful of laps remaining. And it really was a grandstand finish here. Anyone remembers Hungary 2014? It was similar to that, wasn't it, where Alonso was being hunted down by Ricardo and Hamilton. And Jonathan in his of course, Jonathan, a big old Ferrari fan in the Alfa Romeo, was getting deja vu from that as well. It was both from Mercedes and Mumford has produced a very good team game here, isn't he? Oh, I thought we went to the side of Emerson there. That wouldn't have been very teamly of him. But oh dear, and oh dear, that's Matt and Mumford have just finished off the job, really, haven't they? Unfortunately, but I think that was Mumford's first major incident. So as you mentioned, Silverstone and Knowsley, I think Mumford's actually carrying himself absolutely spectacularly well in his first couple of races.
Yeah, he could have been on for some good points there, I think. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, so I think he could have got some good points there. Up in P5, wasn't he at the time? So I think actually, if he'd been a bit more selfish and not let Emerson through there, I think he could have maybe given it away on the straight or something and kept the position as well and been in a better position for the rest of the race. But it's one of those small things, unfortunately, that's cost him some points. But he was doing a really good job, I think, in that race.
He was indeed. It was unfortunate for Mumford. Just Fisher, it was coming proper, and same with Echo as well. Just showing the turn forward is very perilous, isn't it? And oh dear, and that's a McLaren of Sam off as well. Sam in the wrong place in the wrong time there. He was doing a cracking job there. Sam quite likes the twisty technical circuits, doesn't he? This used to be described as Monaco without the barriers, as he's also just cut the chicane there as well. But anyway, we leave Echo in Sam too. I think going back to we just seen Fisher coming across there. Unfortunately, we've got a safety car and Fisher's retired there. At this moment in the season, I think I remember saying that Fisher was either win or bust, really. So I wish I was like that.
But unfortunately, it definitely seemed like it.
And that's done very good for a championship challenge. As I was saying, I wish I was either win or bust. But from a championship point of view, I think that Fisher, as we were saying, he just on the bad days like this, maybe he just needs to get some points because I think he would have been on course for maybe a mid top 10 finish, perhaps. Which any points is better than no points, surely.
Yeah, it was like I said. It's the more points you get throughout the season, the better you do. So yeah, trying to even get some small points and get a few points here and there when the result isn't on, well, the result that you want isn't on. You've got to go for it and keep your head down and get going. So maybe a couple of points here or there, but that couple of points could be the difference at the end of the season, couldn't it?
Indeed, it could. And remember last season that Granty's consistency is what won him the championship, wasn't it? Because I think he didn't have the most wins last season. I think that most wins was, I'm sure it was Emerson. And Emerson's leading this championship, leading this race at the moment as we come through the final turn there for the 31st time. And Emerson is probably going to be feeling hunted at the moment, isn't he? He's got a lot of soft competitors behind him now. As that safety car really changed the dynamic of the race. We was talking about how Jonathan was being the hunted. Now he's the hunter in third position then. And once again, Granty is showing it. Granty's showing over the course of the race there, you don't really need to be the fastest out-and-out driver. You've got to be fastest over the course of 35 laps, don't you? And once again, absolutely nailing the strategy Granty is. I would say that I would describe him as lucky, but that can't be right, surely, because he is just absolutely phenomenal with all these strategy calls so far this season.
Yeah, he has some bad luck here and there, but it always happens, doesn't it? But no, I think he's got the right temperament and the ability to get some wins and get some good points, and really help Team Williams at the top of the constructors at the moment.
And of course, I've touched on Silver in this race twice now. Of course, we had a couple of Silver drivers in here, which Silver is a part of the ALR family now, which is absolutely fantastic stuff. Keep an eye on YouTube because the Silver review will be coming up tomorrow. Yeah, Granty, talking about, I do mention Granty quite a lot in the Silver races because he is such a team player for the Williams. Yeah, it's two different championships, but he's still cheering on the team flag, isn't he? Which I think is absolutely fantastic stuff. A great ambassador Granty has been over the course of the season. Granty is taking the lead whilst I was getting all sentimental there. Emerson is now second at the moment, but he has now got a very feisty Jonathan, who has had an absolutely tremendous drive back from the field. And Martin, a brilliant drive in fourth position as well. As once again, we're down to 12 cars in this race, showing that this race you can't really rest on your laurels, can you? As we got another yellow flag as well, as I think that's one of the McLarens of Vitol or Sam. It's one of them two who've had a bit of a difficult day. Emerson's getting very defensive there, isn't he? As Jonathan is keen to get by, because I think at this time there I was getting quite excited because I thought that Jonathan might have been on course for an unlikely victory as we're on lap 34 out of 35. Oh dear, and Bowden kind of ended off his pretty woeful day, really, out his return to ALR. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Bowden since, but yeah, it's such a shame for Bowden because up until this race, he's one driver I really enjoy going on board with because his defending is absolutely immaculate. Well, he used to be absolutely immaculate, but unfortunately in this race, he seemed to have an off day, didn't he? He was very aggressive, and unfortunately been involved in one or two more scrapes than what he would have done. Grant on the final lap now as well, but this race is far from over, isn't it? Matu is also on course to get some very good points for the Red Bull. I think that would have been his best result of the season, and that was taken away very cruelly by Bowden there. Gunnar doing a good job there of navigating himself up into 8th position. Brilliant stuff there from Gunnar. Mumford on course for 6th position as well. Ghost doing a great job as well. But Granty, another win, Knowlesy.
Yeah, he seems to be getting good at this, doesn't he? So he's. I can't remember. I think out of every race, no, there's a couple that he didn't win, unfortunately. But yeah, he's securing the points, isn't he? You got to get the big points if you want to win the title. Emerson there in P2 and Jonathan in P3. I mean, those two. Well, after the safety car, they battled all the way to the finish line, didn't they? So, congratulations and credit to them for a great job. And well on to Echo there in P5 as well.
Yeah, and also a shout out to Emerson actually, because Emerson was on mediums hires, while Jonathan was on soft tires. So Emerson did an absolutely incredible job of defending there. Also a shout out to Gunnar as well, some good points there from 18th to 7th there, really navigated his way through what was an absolutely chaotic Hungarian Grand Prix. But what do you expect around there? As you can see then, we've now got the relegation line in, and unfortunately Gunnar, Lights and Tuner all in the bottom three at the moment. At the top of the table then, Granty has extended his lead to 24 points, with Emerson moving up to second, Nigel dropping down the third, and Mr. Elite also dropped down 2 positions as well. In the constructors, it's all stalemate at the moment. It's at 10 points separates Williams and Mercedes. That is going to be a season-long battle. I have no doubt about that. Red Bull and Renault, the 2 defending constructors champions, unfortunately at the bottom. Australia next. It's usually the first race of the season, but in this one, Emerson got a jump start there, did they? As unfortunately, this was the first of 2 connection problems.
He was off straight away. Yeah, I think what happened there, unfortunately for him, was that he lagged out of the session just on the formation lap. It must be actually, or just before the formation lap. He managed to join back in the session, but couldn't get control of his car straight away, unfortunately. So he had to let the ghost go around first. And obviously for some reason, when the lights go out or come on rather at the beginning of the race, the ghost car just goes. So everybody else has to wait for the ghost car to disappear. But I confirm he did get back in the car later on in the race. Unfortunately, it cost him a few positions, but he did a great job of recovering in this race. So yeah, we'll just it's the dreaded turn 12 there with Stio. Unfortunately, he's come a cropper in that chicane. It's always a nightmare, that one. It just spits you out really into that wall, doesn't it? And you can't really do much to save yourself.
It's brutal to say the least, isn't it? Jonathan is taking the lead of the Australian Grand Prix then, as it comes for the complete lap 1 then. You can see that the attendance on the left-hand side there, I remember being very disappointed only have 16 drivers, but that it was about quality rather than quantity in this race. I would have said that this was one of my favourite races of the season, and once again, I've said that quite a lot on this review. I'm like, goodness me, I need to decide, don't know, I'm very indecisive with me. But it was, I got to say, I really enjoyed this race. I was absolutely loving it from start to finish. There as a fire shot and Mr. Elite there battling away. A fire shot once again there. He's such a quick drawer. Fire shot. He just can't string it together at the moment, can he? Less said about this the better, really, isn't it? I think I'm seeing stuff which no one else sees there, and luckily it was after the watershed as well. So hopefully no harm, no foul. It's far from Echo there. We're getting very close there, and once again, then it's I seem to quite like doing this, Nosy, where I just seem to. It tickles me. It does. Maybe I got a really poor sense of humour. But anyway, enough said about that. The better is. Sorry. Enough said about that. The better. Jonathan there at the moment was leading by 4/10 of a second from Nigel in second. Now I want to talk about Young Lights because this is where I think he announced himself on the big stage in ALR. He is third in this race. And this race onwards, he is scoring massive points for the Red Bull team. Remember what we said in the opening to this? Oh dear. As unfortunately, that's a Ferrari off in Echo have come to blows as well. But remember what we said at the start of this Australian Grand Prix. Red Bull are down in last position in the constructors. They make massive gains from now on, don't they, Nosy? Of course, I know it's kind of an individual sport, but I think there's a lot of bragging rights in the constructors as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, like I said, he came in and had a few poor races, and he knew he could do better himself. He said so, and as Nigel's gone into the gravel trap there a bit, he knew he could do better and improve, and he just did an outstanding qualifying lap, and that really gave him the confidence in this race to go out there and get his foot on the podium, and try and go a bit higher as well, possibly. But so it's all about the confidence in the track, obviously, and your ability around the track as well. So I think it all sort of clicked into place for him at this race.
It really did, and I think I reckon that you're exactly right there. He could potentially be a race winner, and we don't mean on luck either. Of course, some drivers do might win an odd race here and there on luck. I am won this one league race because I got to put that nugget in there, haven't I? I think that Young Lights is a genuine contender for a race win sooner or later, and these races around Australia, this is the start of the season in my opinion, because he was absolutely mega. As Nigel and Matt there, very close to the wall. My goodness me, they're giving him a sandwich there, Matt was, wasn't he? And not a good kind either. Matt, they're being very, very robust there. But Nigel, brave as you like there. Oh my goodness me, mortal men like myself and Nosy, I would have backed out there, but Nigel was determined to get by there, wasn't he? Fantastic.
Yeah, he's a very consistent and reliable driver. He knows how to race, especially on these games. So yeah, I expect him just to make that move quite easily, and get on with the challenge ahead.
Indeed, and of course that's why I'm a commentator. See, I thought that was a fantastic overtake. Knowles was just like, yeah, we do that on a Sunday morning just before even go racing. So yeah, before even the serious stuff gets involved. Granty and Emerson. Now this is what I really enjoyed, was the two championship protagonists battling for second and third there, and I could have watched these guys go at it all day. It was absolutely fantastic, Emerson and Granty. Really brilliant stuff indeed. And I got to say, this review, I'm very positive, Pete, about this, Nosey. I mean, we were talking about Jonathan and Granty. We're now talking about Emerson and Granty. We've also seen Granty battling with Fisher as well. My goodness me, the wheel-to-wheel combat of these guys, we've mentioned it before, but we've got to mention it again. It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think. I think obviously the Gold have had a bit of a problem sometimes in the races where there's been a few incidents and difficulties and things like that. But the guys at the top of the championship are at the top of the championship for a reason, and that's because they can race cleanly and they can keep it out of the walls, and they can get some good points from that.
Indeed, yeah, and I think the midfield have been can at times be a bit of a frightening place to be living or driving, for example. But and look at Lights going very defensive on Jonathan there. Maybe a bit of a Schumacher Barrichello-esque maneuver there, but Jonathan is through and up into second position wherever Lights in third. But yeah, I think the midfield pack has been quite frightening at times there. But at the front, I think the racing's been absolutely impeccable. Really good stuff indeed. Then there's Grant going on the outside of Brandon and making his way up into full position there as well. As Brandon, I think, was confirmed as a full-time driver from this race onwards, wasn't he? Of course, Brandon, a former race winner. And you can see Grant there just go on the outside of Brandon. They used to be teammates, didn't they? Of course, they had a 1-2 with the Renault team back at Abu Dhabi last season. Absolutely fantastic stuff. It really was then. And once again, they're going side by side. It's absolutely fantastic battling, isn't it? Nigel there still leading at the moment, then, but he's on the medium tyres and yet to come in. There's soft tyres for Jonathan, Granty, and Lights also on the hard tyres as well. Emerson in fifth position at the moment. This is, I think, this is a bit of this is where it comes to really, where the strategy really comes into play now, Nosey, isn't it? We're just at 10 laps to go, isn't it? We've got soft tyres for the majority of the field, but medium tyres for Lights. Hard tyres for Lights.
Yeah, I think he alternated the strategy, like I said earlier, same sort of thing as Jonathan in Silverstone. Unfortunately, didn't work out for Jonathan there, but it seems to be working out for Lights in this situation because the soft tyres drop off towards the end of the race. I think these guys have just gone on their soft tyres and they couldn't get all the life out. Well, they ran out of life on them rather. So yeah, I think Lights made a great call here. You'll see later on where he finished, but I think Nigel's well, he's pitted now. Sorry, we're on to the next slide. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, all of the top 7 on softs, apart from Young Lights on hard tyres, which at the beginning of their stint will benefit them because they'll be able to overtake them quite easily. But later on in the stint, I think they will. They all went on quite early onto the softs. I think maybe the mediums were dying out too quickly. So yeah, it just gave Lights the edge towards the end of the race.
Really did, and that's very brave stuff, isn't it, to go against the grain there, isn't it? Because usually it's kind of like after you kind of, sir, is it? You know, if everyone's going for soft, then you might just you can't be wrong if you follow the train, so to speak. But Lloyd did an absolutely fantastic job there, didn't he? Jonathan is currently leading this race, and as we're taking down to the final few laps, then, and once again it's Emerson and Granty who are battling wheel to wheel. Absolutely fantastic stuff between these two drivers, and of course this was again there. It seems like in every race we have different battles, don't we? And it's really good to see. I love the variety of spices. Absolutely fantastic stuff indeed. Then, and you can see then as now Emerson, as Grant is falling off the back of this one a bit. There's as Emerson and Jonathan there locking horns, so to speak, aren't they? In this battle, and then this is where Fireshot also comes into play as well, as he is battling with Grant. And look in the background there, Lights. You just seen Lights just gaining on it. It's now down to 1 second. As Nosey said, then this is really pays dividends for Lights later on in this race. And Emerson floats on the outside. Well, I say floats, there's more than floats, isn't he? He's going much quicker than floated, and that's a magnificent move there. I can't even speak, I was that excited. A magnificent move there on the outside. And also Lights getting past Fireshot as well. What a move there from Emerson on the outside there. As we said, then he did such a great race there after disconnecting and then coming back into first position and Lightstone just getting himself onto the podium now. But hats off to Emerson in this race in Australia. Fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. I think he went back to I can't remember where he was on lap one, back to sort of P10 somewhere down the bottom of the points. Maybe it's P9, but he did a fantastic job to recover, and I think he had the pace around this track to win the race by quite a margin. If it all as we got spinner, by quite a margin. If the connection issues didn't play their hand on this one, but no, he put his head down and got the race done, and his pace was incredible, really. I think the reason Granty spun out there was because of his puncture, which he picked up on lap 28. So I think he goes round and finishes 2 laps with a puncture on this one.
Yeah, so good stuff. Well, not good stuff from Grant, but good. It was like Gilles Villeneuve, wasn't it, really? When Gilles Villeneuve had that puncture, I think it was in the Dutch Grand Prix, wasn't it? And Emerson wins the race there from Jonathan, and the lights there, absolutely stupendous drive. I think it's the light show in Australia, wasn't it? My goodness me. Grant there just coming through, and I think this is probably his worst race of the season, wasn't it, today so far? So unfortunately for Granty, it was a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a horror show in Australia. I felt he was off the pace compared to his rivals in Australia, but we've mentioned this before, haven't we, in terms of tracks you like and tracks you dislike there, and maybe that's a track that Granty wasn't really too fond of. So hats off to I think that was to Steve, wasn't it? No penalties at all there, getting the solitary point there for the Haas team. But Australia was it was action all the way, wasn't it? Some outstanding performances in Australia.
Yeah, I was happy for obviously Farshot there in 15th, starting 15th, sorry, and finishing 4th. He'd done a great race and had some great battles throughout the race as well.
You really did. I'm sorry for a shot. I should have mentioned you a bit more. I think I ignored an error. Apologies for a shot. Yeah, he had a fantastic Australian Grand Prix, didn't he? And looking at the championship, Murphy is now dropped down into the relegation zone. Stringy just flirting with that as well. Lights moving up 8 positions, fantastic stuff. Farshot moving up 3 positions as well. And Matt in the top 10, but at the top of the standings, my goodness me, 2 points separates Granty and Emerson. That's the story of the season so far, isn't it? In the constructors, Williams had a horror show, didn't they? They've dropped from first to third. Mercedes and Alfa Romeo have gone up to second and first. And now we're on to Singapore. And I got to say, here we go then. Singapore then under the lights then as... we will be going in a minute as Lights there is, I think, went off the line there a bit too early, didn't he? And we're going, and Fisher seems to be quite good around these street circuits because once again there, he got pole position. Unfortunately, didn't get it in Monaco, but in Singapore, he absolutely lit up the timings in qualifying. Fantastic stuff from Fisher.
Yeah, he did a great job again in the qualifying session, and luckily he didn't get a 5-place grid penalty for this one, so he could start in P1 as well. So I think I agree with your statement there. He's on the street circuits. He's got something that can gain him a few spots here and there. And it looks like Young Lights was lagging about and causing incidents, which was unfortunate for everybody else in the race. We had Wesley in here as well, who was reserving today in this race, sorry, in the Renault, but has joined the league now full time in the Racing Point. Himself and Nigel will be flying the flag for Racing Point, the pink flag, obviously, for Racing Point in the future for the season. So looking forward to seeing those guys together on track because they're both really quick guys, both really good racers. Back to the battle at the top. Obviously, we're on the 8th lap now, but Fisher's gap. I mean, he kept the gap quite steady, but he was never a threat from the driver behind.
No, it wasn't. I think Fisher had well. I wouldn't say you can never really count rest on your laurels in Formula 1 racing, can you? As we watch Sam making an incredible manoeuvre there. My goodness me, he put it all on the line, didn't he, Sam? There, my goodness me, a cracking race. Like Fisher, Sam was pretty good on the old street circuits, isn't he? And that was a cracking overtake. Yeah, I think Fisher at this stage of the race there did seem to have it all under control there. And you did mention about Wesley there being A at reserve and before joining the Racing Point full time. And that is an incredible team, isn't it? For Nigel and for Wesley. Really looking forward to seeing what they could do in the constructors then. So we're coming down Raffles Boulevard, which I only recently figured out that I've been saying that the wrong straight is Raffles Boulevard. So apologies about that, guys. I've been misleading you all this time. And then we got a virtual safety car after Cod Oliver. I think that was Cod Oliver's debut, wasn't it? But unfortunately, that ended in the same place that Danny Rick's race ended back in 2013 now. So even the best of the best could have problems. Jonathan right down in a 17th position at the time. As oh goodness me, as Mr. Elite and Matt getting very fraught in that battle for 6th and 7th there. I feel that in the first half of the race, we had two halves in this race, didn't we? We had a bit of a steady start to this race, and then after safety car, it was all incredible nosy, wasn't it? But this first half of the race, I would say, very, very much they was looking at the long game here, wasn't they?
Yeah, I think everybody, or the gap sort of appeared quite quickly in this one. Being a street circuit, it sort of helps in the way because they all space out a bit quicker than races where we got DRS toe and that sort of thing all over the place. But there's only two DRS zones on this track. But yeah, I think the overall pace was good from everybody in this one, and I think, like you said, it was a consistent performance, and up until I think it was like somewhere about lap 16 or 17, wasn't it, when the safety car came out.
Yeah, Aniki decided to rain down on this race, didn't he? Didn't it? And of course, then talking of rain, we do get a bit of bits spots later on, don't we? Or maybe slightly more than spots. Then there's Nigel and Vesey there, of course, teammates, isn't they? Now battling tooth and nail in turn 7 there, is there? I know it's going off the track there, but that doesn't seem to be frowned upon around here, does it? Which is Codemasters in a nutshell, really, isn't it? Very inconsistent of the do's and don'ts, doesn't it? As you see the safety car there, as unfortunately Gunnar, safety car was out a lot earlier than what I thought it was actually, but Gunnar is in the wall there. I was like you, I thought it was up 16 or 17 then. So yeah, okay. I don't know. I think both of us must be thinking of a different race then. Into the pits comes Emerson then, and this is where the race gets really interesting for me. It's because this is where strategy completely diverts itself for what the norm was, or possibly what the norm would have been then. As Fisher already come in the pits then, and I think he put on hard tyres, whilst I think these guys put on another set of medium tyres, which was very interesting at the time, wasn't it, Knowlesy? What did you make of all this going on?
Well, I think they had to play the long game on the strategy side of things. I think, maybe some of them are banking on the two stops are actually working better than going onto the hard compounds. Not many people like to use the hard compound tyres anyway because they're just a bit of a nuisance for warming up and getting some actual pace out of them. But yeah, I think most people decided it was the best option to get to the end doing a one stop, like Bilton is now and Fisher. So all except he's done it. So yeah, so he's So it's probably one of the most sort of manoeuvrable tracks to create your strategy, because I think it all depends if you're doing a two-stopper where you're going to come out and who you're going to have to overtake, because that's the one that's going to make or break your time.
It is indeed, and going back to the Fisher and Granty incident, what did you make of that? Was it a racing incident, or do you think Granty should give Fisher a bit more space?
No, I think it was a racing incident. It was a bit of both from either of them, really. I mean, the gap was always closing, but Granty could have left a bit more space. But so yeah, we'll chalk it up to either or.
And as Brandon's just gone to the back of Steve there, being acquainted with the Haas a bit too much there, wasn't it, for Brandon? Yeah, I think of course this does happen in Formula 1, doesn't it? Well, oh dear, as Lights there has gone off to a completely different part of the track there before doing a moonwalk back on. Lovely stuff. We've got also the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo battling away. So Matt there is gone on the alternative strategy, then going for the long game here, isn't he? And as you can see coming down Raffles Boulevard again, and look at this, there's all kinds of shenanigans there, and that was a vile incident, my goodness me, between Vesey and Stee. I think that maybe wrong place, wrong time, perhaps some egos getting involved. I think that was quite a major incident, and I was quite surprised it was only a virtual safety car. Do you feel that that crash could have been avoided there?
Yeah, I think it was just a bit of. I think it was went the inside car. I can't remember who it was now. Sorry, the inside car had his front right wheel caught on it, or inside the left rear wheel of the outside car, which just caused sort of T-shape, and it ended up in that barrier.
And that was just that was unfortunate, really, wasn't it? Of course, that's the problem when you've got competitive drivers. It really is. And you can see they're still coming in the pits now. And now Emerson and Granty once again have met on track then. And I think this race is where it really turns, doesn't it? And it becomes such a fascinating battle between Granty and Emerson. And you can see then, I think we've got a few spots of rain on the camera there, haven't we? As now this is where I wasn't actually talking about the rain there, but yeah, the rain also as well comes down in the in this final part of the race then. So this is where it really throws a curveball as well. How did your driving style change? I think this is the first time we've got rain in this season review. As Mr. Elite has visited the barrier at turn 15. This is the first time I got rain in this season review. How do you? And it came down in such quickly in such intense zones there. How do you adapt your driving when it's raining like this?
I don't. I just pray. Pray I don't spin and go into a wall, basically. But you can. The only thing you can do, because obviously part firmware and the setups are already on, unless you've changed it in qualifying that you're predicting the wet race to go. Well, you know the wet race is coming. You can adjust your setup then before you actually get the qualifying underway. But yeah, the only thing you can really do is amend your brake bias and amend your front wing.
And that's very limited, of course. Back in the good old days, of course, you had all kinds of setup. And unfortunately, Brandon and Jonathan come to blows. Jonathan was having a bit of a nightmare race up to this point, and unfortunately, it doesn't end too well either for Jonathan. But of course, Singapore is quite near to Malaysia. That's as good as my geography gets. Unfortunately, all I know is in around about the same part of the world. And we had incredible rain, didn't we, in 2009 in Malaysia? Well, we had a similar story here because it's light rain at the moment, but in the last 6 laps, it becomes an absolute monsoon. All the drivers that was able to stay on track for the final field. Unfortunately, Brandon's one of them that didn't, and that will also cause a safety car as well. I think they were gladiators towards the end of this race. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And somehow Granty and Emerson were battling tooth and nail, and they were still keeping it on track as to battling the elements as well as each other. I think that was absolutely fantastic stuff. And the safety car is in then, so we have now got 3 laps. And there's a lot of guys that was on the wet tyres there. Ooh, it was getting very feisty there. But some guys on the wet tyres, some guys on the intermediate tyres. But the wet tyres didn't seem to make any big differences in this race.
Yeah, I think it just wasn't right. There wasn't the right call at the time, was it? So yeah, you need to make the whole point of especially when there's weather changes is getting the strategy right and getting the calls right. Like Jenson Button did in Canada all those years ago. But yeah, so it's literally just a bit of luck and hoping that you can get the right call, really. And unfortunately, the guys who put the wets on, although it looks like it certainly looks like it would be absolutely fine for the wets right now. We're still losing out to the intermediate guys.
Yeah, I was quite surprised about it, to be honest. I think I was in the commentary box. I was absolutely like going right off on one, saying that the likes of Matt and Jonathan and Echo made an absolutely stupendous call, and it was probably the right call to win this race. But how wrong was I? Which is not the first time, not the last time either. There's Jonathan there is trying to Jonathan and Echo on a good old battle with Mr. Elite. Mr. Elite up to this point was having a fantastic race. He really was. I remember all the race in Russia where he was saying that was his best race this season. Until that date, it was. And Mr. Elite was really battling the midfield in the midfield. Amazing battle, but as he's gone a bit wide there. See, look at the rain now. That's appalling weather, isn't it? My goodness me. Absolutely coming down in raining cats and dogs at the moment. Coming down in steroids. But Mr. Elite there, I think this was a fantastic race for Mr. Elite, wasn't it? I still think Russia was his best race, but definitely this is a much bigger improvement for Mr. Elite after a very difficult season then. I think that was the Echo going slightly wide then. As you said, Nosey, it seems like a lot of the guys have the same mentality as you, really. Just kind of hope that you stop the car, because it looks like that these guys are just struggling with grip around there. It's appalling conditions, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one thing to stop the car under braking normally anyway. But yeah, when the added conditions are just appalling, especially if you're following somebody, you can't really see what's going on in front of you. So you have to rely on the racing line, or just to have to rely on the brake markers, something to help you know where to stop. So when you're battling someone, especially as I think John there has been disqualified for not serving a drive-through. Yeah, so when you're battling, especially in these conditions, it takes real skill from all of these guys to get around the track and to finish the race.
Indeed, and indeed, these guys did finish, and Granty coming through to win yet another race. I think that was his 5th win of the season or 4th win of the season. Absolutely fantastic stuff from Granty. I remember he only had 3 wins in his championship winning season last season. So for Granty this season, I think has really elevated his game somehow. I didn't think he could, but my goodness me, he really has done an absolute star. At the end of that race, Granty finished first with, I think Everton was elevated back up to second because he had a very dodgy penalty, to say the least. There, great terminology there, but I think he was put back up to second there as well. But Nigel and Granty have no penalties, and I think fantastic stuff for them as well, especially around those tricky conditions towards the end of that race. And I think that also marks the end of the first half of the season, which has been absolutely fantastic up until now. I've really enjoyed myself, and as everyone knows, I do like to look back on the season as a whole. But before we do, of course, Gamer moving up to 18th position, and Brandon and Vesey moving up to 14th and 15th respectively. Young Lights has climbed himself up to 7th. Remember where he was before Australia. Fantastic. Granty also retakes the lead in the Drivers' Championship 2 at 9 points. In the Constructors, Mercedes and Williams are still locking horns. 5 points separates Racing Point is up in the 3rd position, and Renault moving in front of Ferrari then. It's been an absolutely fantastic first half of the season. I do enjoy looking back on races very fondly. It's been a great first half of the season. We'll be on to the second half. See you soon.